York City, that was especially personally significant for both candidates.
Okay, MJ Lee there in New York, thank you. And joining us here now in Los Angeles, Dave Jacobson, a Democratic strategist and campaign consultant with Shulman Communication. Also, John Thomas, a Republican consultant and founder of Thomas Partners Strategies. As always, good to have you with us. Let's start with Donald Trump. The big night for him, a real comeback after a bad couple of weeks. And tonight in his victory speech, a very different Donald Trump.
We don't have much of a race anymore based on what I'm seeing on television. Senator Cruz is just about mathematically eliminated. As you know, we have won millions of more votes than Senator Cruz, millions and millions of more votes than Governor Kasich. We've won, and now, especially after tonight, close to 300 delegates more than Senator Cruz. We're really rocking.
So, John, who is this Senator Cruz of which he speaks? No more Lion Ted. We have Governor Kasich, Senator Cruz.
Look, tonight was truly a huge night for Donald Trump.
And he was disciplined on message.
But everything he did, let's look at his tie. He normally wears a bright red tie. Tonight was blue because he's showing that he's a uniter, right? He can cross over party divides. Everything Donald Trump did tonight was strategic. He's been saying that the establishment is out to get him, and he's now, instead of Lion Ted, it's Senator Cruz. And that's just to highlight the fact that Senator Cruz is part of the establishment and Donald Trump isn't.
Dave, let me ask you this. The Never Trump, the Stop Trump campaign, it was all about trying to keep him below that 50% threshold in New York. They tried, they failed. Does this kind of win, this margin of win, does it give him the validation, the momentum he needs for the next contest?
For sure. It was a blowout victory. I mean, everybody was saying, is he going to get past 50%? Is he going to be able to clinch even 55%? This was an enormous victory, and, you know, it sort of eviscerated any momentum that Ted Cruz had sort of after the big Wisconsin win. And I think it's going to propel him moving forward with significant momentum into Maryland, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, some of these big delegate-rich states. And I think he can now make a case, look, there is a pathway for me legitimately to get to 1237.
But it's still a steep climb.
It is, but Donald Trump reset the narrative tonight. Look, we knew he was going to win New York, but we didn't know by this much of a margin. He needed big momentum as we steamrolled into California, which is where it all may end, and he got it tonight.
Right.
No, he picked up the momentum, but let me ask you this. You talk about him, you know, him changing changing the optics of all of this, but the narrative is still kind of tiptoed around that idea of if he doesn't get it, it's because he was robbed. It's still keeping that narrative going because it's good for his base.
It is. He needs his people to stay with him, that the establishment wants to stop him from getting it. And remember, I think Donald Trump understands that even if he doesn't get the requisite delegate number, if he comes this close, he could make it probably difficult for the party at a convention to strip it from him.
If I could jump in real quick. I think the other thing that was significant is if you look at turnout, it was astronomical on the Republican side. It's tough for me to say that as a Democrat, right? Because our numbers, we didn't break any records tonight. But I think that really underscores the fact that Donald Trump has a message that is really resonating with a wide range of voters who normally don't participate in this process.
Yeah, John Kasich did better than Ted Cruz. Very hard for Ted Cruz to say, I'm the guy to beat Donald Trump when he can't beat John Kasich. But you have to make the point here, Marco Rubio, who got out of the race back in Florida, back in March, he still has more delegates than John Kasich in this race.
What is John Kasich doing in this race? I mean, honestly, he should have done better. That New York was a state, as a moderate Republican, that he should have done better in, and he didn't. The fact is, he has no statistical chance of getting the number of delegates he needs. He's just hanging in this because who knows?
Okay.
We should say it. So he won Manhattan,
Yes.
Donald Trump's where he lives. Is that people who know Donald Trump didn't actually vote for Donald Trump?
I mean, I can't speak to that, but on the Kasich front, the problem he's going to have after tonight with such a weak showing is his money. It wasn't raising much before. Now it's going to completely dry up, and it's hard to keep going without money.
You mentioned Kasich, but we got to talk Cruz. What about him? How does he rebound? I mean, what do you say when he's all but mathematically eliminated, which is what Trump said?
Well, I think it's really difficult for Cruz coming out of tonight because the Never Trump movement was really getting oxygen by some of these like delegate stories where delegates were switching over to Cruz. But if you're supporting the Never Trump or you're a big financier, after tonight you're going to get the willies going, do I want to keep investing in something? Maybe a Trump train that can't be stopped?
Okay, let's go on to the Democrat side now because, we heard from Hillary Clinton. She's well on her way to getting this party nomination. She had this the victory speech, she went out there, she tried to make this pivot yet again to the general election campaign. And Hillary Clinton, she reached out to the supporters of Bernie Sanders. Listen to this.
It is humbling. It's humbling that you'd trust me with the awesome responsibilities that await our next president. And to all the people who supported Senator Sanders, I believe there is much more that unites us than divides us.
But then, after the outreach and the
Yes.
kumbaya moment, we had this statement coming from the Clinton campaign, from the spokesperson, basically telling Bernie Sanders he needs to stop this destructive path, stop the attacks on Clinton's character. It kind of blew the whole moment out of the water, didn't
Look,
it?
the two campaigns, they hate each other. It's
Yeah.
clear. In
Okay,
fact,
you're so
it-
joking
well,
when you say that.
I mean, Jeff Weaver of Bernie Sanders' campaign said tonight that they're going to take this thing all the way to the convention floor, no matter what the delegate math says. I mean, they don't like each other.
Dave, why would the Clinton campaign spokesperson come out? Is it just frustration right now?
I think it underscores the heated rhetoric and sort of the sharpened attacks that we saw building up to New York. Look, I think Bernie Sanders right now has no viable path moving forward to getting to the 2383 delegate number, mixing the parties up. But I think the reality is he has a choice, right? Bernie Sanders can either embrace the sort of heated rhetoric, these sharpened attacks, and continue to rip apart the fabric that holds the Democratic Party together and really hurt his chances moving into the convention to be a part of it, right? Or he can pivot back to his more optimistic, hopeful message, which really built the movement around his campaign. And I think he can continue until California. He's got the resources to do that. But I think if he wants to participate in the general election, be part of the party's platform this summer, he's got to move away from these negative
And you
attacks.
feel that it may have hurt him, the negative attacks.
Right. I mean, look, there were polls showing that he was closing the gap, and then all this, there was a poll his campaign put out just days before the election showing him 6 points behind. But then he loses by a whopping double digits. I mean, I think it really backfired, particularly when he called Hillary Clinton unqualified. With women, women voters were turned off by that.
I looked at the New York campaign for Sanders here. This was his last stand. He was an outsider. He wanted an upset. He threw everything at Clinton, everything he had. He went negative. There were some false accusations there made by the Sanders campaign. He didn't even get close. So, he's gone back to Vermont now for a day to rest. He's made it clear he'll stay in the campaign. That's tonight. Is it possible? Maybe not tomorrow. Maybe next week they come out and say, we're done.
I mean, I don't think so. He's got the money to keep going. He's going to go to California. California is a different kind of electorate than New York. Look, tonight there are two stories for me on the Democratic side from tonight. On the one hand, former Senator Clinton won her home state that she represented. Okay. On the other hand, Secretary Clinton always wins with different ethnicities like Latinos and African Americans, but tonight she stomped Senator Sanders with whites, which was Senator Sanders' base.
And another point that she made to pick up on the diversity of her win is the point she made in her speech. She's won everywhere. She said that in her speech. She's won in the North, she's won in the South, she's won in the East, she's making that point that she gets these broad-based wins, drawing that contrast with Sanders.
Well, and I think Sanders was making the case, look, I'm picking up steam. I've won 8 out of the last 9 contests. Sure, but those are primarily Republican states. She's dominating in Democratic strongholds, and I think it underscores the fact that she's building up the collection of voters that you need for a general election to be successful.
And as you move forward here, for Sanders to even have a hope of winning, majority of the delegate, he needs to take California by about 20 points, Pennsylvania and New Jersey by around 10 points. I mean, this is not going to happen. So we heard from the Sanders campaign that essentially they are looking at flipping those superdelegates. So we're getting to kind of an hypocrisy here from the Sanders campaign after criticizing the superdelegates for so long, saying, well, hang on, now my entire campaign rests on flipping those superdelegates.
Right, and that would be a viable option for him had there been sort of the Barack Obama-Hillary Clinton dynamic where there was a much more narrow gap with the delegates. She has an enormous lead. She's about 700 delegates now, combined with state delegates and superdelegates. And so for him to sort of mount any effort to peel away those delegates, I think is not realistic at this point.
The challenge she faces now, of course, is when she gave that speech at the end of this evening with the victory in New York. It was a general election speech. It was, this is America, this is what America's about. For as long as Sanders continues in this campaign and makes these attacks, she can't focus on that general election, and that is a problem for her.
Yeah, she has two she wants to go to the general election, but she can't.
Yeah.
And she has to get Sanders supporters to come on board. But a poll as of last week said that 25% of Sanders supporters said under no condition would they ever vote for Hillary Clinton.
Polls are reflective, not predictive, so we'll see what happens.
He loves saying that.
Okay, David, John, thank you for being with us.
Thanks,
And we'll take a short break, but when we come back with CNN's special election coverage.